Hi, my name's Shane Morigeau. I'm the Democratic nominee for Montana State Auditor. And a little bit about me. I'm a native Montanan. I grew up on the Flathead Reservation in the Ronan area in Lake County, beautiful Lake County. Member of the Salish and Kootenai tribes. I went to forestry school here, grew up fighting fire here in Montana, serving as I was a raft guide for a few summers. Spent a lot of time outdoors hunting and fishing. And I'm running for state auditor because I believe it's a really important opportunity for Montanans to have someone that is going to represent people again and put consumers first. So I'm excited about this race. I'm excited about stepping up and doing the work, hitting the ground running for Montana as a state auditor.
Hi, Troy Downing, candidate for Montana State Auditor. First of all, I want to thank the Montana Farm Bureau for allowing me this time. A little bit about my background. I started out in education. I was a research scientist at the Quran Institute of Mathematical Sciences. I taught in the computer science department. And after having some success in technology, I had an opportunity. I moved into commercial real estate and ended up building a large nationwide portfolio mostly in commercial real estate, mostly in self-storage. And after I built that portfolio, one of the things when we were syndicating that, we raised money through the independent broker-dealer networks, which was my foray into the securities industry. We were a FINRA member, licensed under FINRA, and built one of the larger privately held self-storage portfolios in the country. And after doing that, I saw an opportunity to build an insurance company for our portfolio. We started doing a tenant insurance program for ourselves, which became a nationwide program. So one of the things that I want to emphasize in this role is that I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a businessman, I have experience in the securities industry. I've built an insurance company, and the other thing that's tremendously important to me is this seat on the Board of Land Commissioners. It's very meaningful for all Montanans. It supports the backbone of our economy, our farmers, our ranchers, natural resource development, and incredibly important, and is raising money for education. And so I think it's important that you have somebody in this office that has business background, that understands these complicated and highly regulated industries that it oversees, and also has a plan for what we're going to do with these very valuable state trust lands.
So I grew up here in Montana, and I know what it's like to live in a low-income family. I was born and raised here. I grew up in Ronan, a community surrounded by agriculture. I grew up changing pipe for my neighbors, bucking bales for my neighbors, how I made money in the summers. And so I know that, that really the top two things I hear from farmers and ranchers is the costs associated with being able to survive in the industry nowadays. It's too expensive for a lot of folks to get into the industry, and that the fluctuating costs and markets make it really difficult for farmers and ranchers to be able to sustain their operations. And so I know that from experience and growing up across a field from in all directions from farmers and ranchers. And I know that this office is critical in ensuring that their overhead stays as low as possible.
Well, agriculture, my heart is with our farmers and ranchers. I've spoken with, I've spent a lot of time with our farmers and ranchers. I know we've had some difficult seasons. I know last year, a lot of crops were devastated. I've talked to beet farmers, across the state that ended up not harvesting. I've seen all the damage and the issues that we've seen with them. I know that beef prices are always weighing heavy on our ranchers, and that's something that is meaningful to me, because that is the number one economic driver in the state is agriculture, and so we need to pay very close attention to that. And what I think a lot of people don't understand, I'm a businessman, I'm also a combat veteran. I think a lot about national security, and I think about the health of supporting rural America, rural Montana, and when I think about this as a national security issue, it's because the easiest way to hurt a nation is by not feeding it. And if we're not supporting our farmers and ranchers, if we can't produce food, then that puts us in a vulnerable situation. That's something that I think about a lot. And one of the things that I do plan on doing, that I've already started doing in my role as the state auditor, is I've been talking to farmers and ranchers across the state, amongst others. And I have an advisory committee of folks from stock growers, from, you name every flavor across the state, so that they can talk to me about things that are working and not working in my role on the Board of Land Commissioners. I think it's very important that everybody has a seat at the table so we can understand where the pain points are, what's working, what's not, what the unintended consequences are on land board decisions, because I want to roll into that office having a wide array of people that can tell me what's working and what's not, rather than depending on somebody else that's been sitting in that office that's going to tell me what I'm supposed to care about.
The state lands it's a constitutionally mandated land board in Montana, and it's set out to manage our public lands for our educational institutions and endowed institutions. And so, the big priority is making sure that we're managing them in a way to support our schools, education beneficiaries in the state of Montana. And I know that's done through agriculture, leasing. It's done through forest and timber management, and it's done through recreation economy, making sure that we're managing those in a way where it's also there's mining, mineral management on those public lands as well. So there's a lot of different aspects that fold into how we manage our public lands, but it's critical to me to manage all of those, to make sure we're supporting our school systems, and to make sure that we're sustaining access for our public lands, and we're supporting our recreation economy of outdoor recreation economy, which was a $7 billion industry, which it is a $7 billion industry annually.
Well, first of all, the Board of Land Commissioners was constitutionally created with a very specific purpose, and that specific purpose was managing our state trust lands, our school sections, to fund education. And I've already talked about my thoughts on land management in general, and I take a chapter out of the BLM Act. I really believe in the idea of multiple use and sustained yield. And multiple use to me means multiple use. We look at what's important to preserve, we look at access issues, we look at sportsmen's issues, we look at all the things that we do with our lands. But the other part of that is, where does it make sense to graze? Where does it make sense to do timber harvest, to do natural resource development? We look at that holistically with lots of seats at the table so that we can really decide what's best to do with our state trust lands. Now, the second part of that, the sustained yield part, is equally important. To me, sustained yield means do this in a way that we are true stewards, that we do not deplete these assets, that we can continue using these valuable assets generation after generation after generation. The role of this is to generate funds for public education. And it's a small piece. I think the last year was about $46 million, but it's still a big check. And if we're not continuing to be stewards in generating that money and growing that money, it's got to come from somewhere else. And where is that somewhere else? It's mill levies on property tax or income tax. Neither one of those are anything that we want to see as Montanans. So we want to use those state trust lands as they were set aside to do, those school sections, do natural resource development, support the backbone of our economy, our farmers, our ranchers, our loggers, our miners, raise money for education. And I plan, that's one thing that I'm very excited about doing, is having everybody that has a seat at the table, everybody that's affected by this, having a voice so we can make good decisions.
Yeah, my priorities are, number one, supporting our school trust beneficiaries, making sure we're managing, utilizing multiple use sustained yield to support our endowed institutions, educational systems in Montana. And that really includes working with landowners and making sure we're finding ways to support landowners in that process, to assist with ag leasing and those sorts of issues, to really build up our Montana economy in any way we can. Also working with sportsmen and sportswomen to support our recreation economy, which is an over $7 billion industry. And really looking at all those different facets and managing those priorities, whether it's mineral leasing, forest management for timber harvesting, ag leasing, real estate management. We have to really have a balanced approach in our state lands to make sure we're meeting our constitutional mandate for our school trust beneficiaries.
Well, my priorities, my priorities for managing state trust lands, I think I've already mentioned. I really believe in the idea of multiple use and sustained yield. And when we look at this holistically, there's obviously multiple use can mean a lot of different things. And I think one of the problems that we run into very often is multiple use for some groups means my use, not your use, not our use. And I think that we need to, again, have everybody that's affected by this, our farmers, our ranchers, our miners, our loggers, our drillers, everybody that uses our state trust lands, have a seat at the table to let us know, have a conversation about what's working, how we support that backbone of our economy, and raise much needed money for public education. So as we have these conversations and figure out how we can continue to not only manage for these industries, but also protect what we hold dear, make sure that we're protecting access, all the things that we look out our window and make us smile, continue to truly be stewards of these lands, because it's important for all Montanans to still, preserve what we love about this state. And this is the treasure state, and we all smile when we look out the window. We need to make sure that we continue doing that, but using these specific sections for funding education to do what they were constitutionally set aside to do, and that is to fund education. I think that's important. We need to continue generating that money. We need to continue supporting industry, and we need to protect everything that we hold dear as Montanans.
Yeah, so this is a tough issue for agricultural businesses, and I know that. And I've talked to farmers and ranchers where I grew up about this issue over the years, and we've really identified that we need to do really a multi-tiered process here. Number one, we need to continue to find ways to get good quality companies coming into Montana, where there's healthy competition to promote affordable products for farmers and ranchers. We also need to make sure that when accidents happen, that farmers and ranchers have affordable insurance and health care to where they actually can get back out on the ranch and the farm quickly, to where they're not losing revenues to keep their operations going. And the other big piece is making sure that we're doing educational trainings and really getting out and talking to farmers and ranchers about reducing risks in ways where we can reduce the costs and overhead for them as well. So those are really three ways that I think we can work together to do better by ag businesses in Montana.
Workman's compensation in Montana is obviously an issue. We're one of the more expensive states. And I think if you just think about what we do in Montana, it makes sense. We have a lot of what I'd say are low premium or low number of employee, high risk jobs, and obviously that pushes prices up. One of the things that I think that we can start to do is look at offering insurance across borders. I think bringing competition into Montana, bringing more from the private sector. Obviously the state fund has a very specific purpose and I think is important as a guaranteed market. And if we start making it easy for businesses to do business in Montana, I think that we can float a lot of boats. And one of the ways we do that is we start looking at the regulatory code. First and foremost, this is a consumer protection agency. So we do not stop, all holes barred on making sure that we protect consumers, Montana consumers. And then once we're past that, let's see how we can start bringing competition in, maybe cross-border competition, maybe expanding outside of our borders for our workman's compensation so that we can spread the risk. If we can spread the risk, then we can start seeing a reduction in premium. And my background, I'm a businessman, and I think about this a lot. And I think if you spend more of your time and energy on growing your business, on creating better product, and you bring competition in, then you start to see prices go down. And I think that in this case, being an advocate for business is consumer advocacy, because we have more choices, we have more carriers, we have better prices, we have companies that are focusing on producing better product, not simply on growing their compliance departments. So that's a starting point for how we can get our hands around reducing costs of workman's compensation.
It's I'm really excited about the opportunity to step in and work on behalf of every Montanan in the state. I know that our egg businesses are critical to Montana's economy, and I know that's a major piece of the work that I need to do in this office and find solutions to ensure that everybody has affordable products. I pride myself on being an independent voice and being able to get a lot of great work done in the legislature and having bipartisan efforts. When I was in the legislature, I passed 9 bills over 2 sessions. I think that's a testament to my ability to work with everyone from whatever political spectrum you come from. And I'm excited to just get to work and have this office get back to working on behalf of Montana consumers and not roll out the red carpet for necessarily industry, but having a really balanced approach to where we're helping everybody in the state of Montana.
Well, I'm Troy Downing. I'm your candidate for State Auditor, Insurance Commissioner, and Commissioner of Securities. I think it's important that somebody in this role is driven, has a business background, has experience in these industries. These are 2 complicated, highly regulated industries, and I fear somebody running for this office that has none of that experience, who's never been in business, has no experience in these highly regulated industries, wouldn't know what they didn't know. And I'm not going to pretend that I know everything, but I have enough experience and enough pain points building businesses, helping other people build businesses, and operating in a highly regulated industry to actually get some work done. I'm excited about working for the people of Montana. I'm excited about what we can accomplish. I think that even though this is a lesser known office, it affects everybody in the state, and I think that we can do a lot of good. So if you want to find more information, just look at me at troydowning.com. I appreciate the time, and thanks again to the Farm Bureau.